Hey everyone, it's Kyler Johnson. Excited to be here today, and I'm going to share with you guys what I am looking at for 2024, where I see value and where I might want to stay away from as I'm looking to generate high returns, looking for high quality companies that are temporarily out of favor, and where we can find some real good value, margin of safety for some great returns. So stick around to see what I'm thinking. 2024 seems to be a year of big calls both directions, either up or down, where so many people are either feeling like everyone is over optimistic or everyone is too pessimistic. It seems like people are just really polarized in how they're viewing the market right now. So want to share with you guys what I'm actually thinking about going into 2024 after 2023, where we ended up with a fantastic year for returns for the major indexes, and what that actually tells us about this year, an election year, and where I see we can get some value. So first off, let's address the elephant in the room, the Mag 7. I'm sure you guys are super familiar with how high all of those 7 companies have run and how they continue to run. As you guys probably saw, Amazon and Meta's earnings, that they absolutely took off and people loved it. And how I see them kind of performing this year. After last year, where they had a fantastic performance and really drew the indexes up with them, it was those 7 companies that made up the majority of the returns last year of the S&P 500, and it was those 493 other companies that were laggards last year. This year, I see one of the biggest things being that those 493 are going to start to catch up. That might not mean that the major indexes have any major or crazy year, as I see a fairly subdued year from here on out for the Mag 7 just because of their outperformance last year. I don't see the Magnificent 7 doing poorly this year by any means. I just think that they might particularly underperform the indexes slightly. I think they are fantastic companies. I just look at them at being overvalued currently at the time, trading for multiples that are far beyond what I would consider fair value. Now, that's just my opinion. All of this is opinion, not investing advice. You guys do your own research and determine what makes sense for you. If you're only worried about safety and having the opportunity for long-term compounding, they might make sense for you. But for me, who's thinking a little bit shorter term, and when I say shorter term, the next 12, 24, 36, 48 months, right? Several years in a time, I'm looking for the best opportunities now, as I know that those companies are at some point going to go out of favor. I'm not worried about picking them up at these high multiples right now. And that's not to say either that they're not going to run up another 20, 30, 40, 50%. As we've seen in the past, the market often likes to go swing to highs that are unreasonable and lows that are unreasonable. So keep that in mind as you're investing. So that's the main theme that I see playing out in 2024, where the 493 are catching up and the Magnificent 7 might slightly underperform the indexes. I see the indexes up around their historical average, fairly subdued, high single digits, maybe even into the teens to end the year off. A fairly solid year all around. When I think many people are looking for a recession right now, I think there's a few reasons why that doesn't necessarily make sense coming this year. Not to say it won't happen. It's going to happen again. It's just a matter of when. One of the biggest reasons that I see this not coming right now is how strong the consumer is. When you think about companies and the stock market, it is most correlated to the earnings of companies and how they're performing. And if consumers are continuing to spend money, that's going to keep the profits of these companies high and pushing them higher. And even though there's been historical spending, I think all the money that was sent out during COVID in those stimulus checks is still lingering around even years later. And it's pushing people to still feel fairly comfortable in spending. The reason I see that people are still incredibly pessimistic has to do specifically with home prices. With the pushing up of interest rates, it's created real unaffordability in the home market. And I think that that's reflecting overall on the economy, whereas the other spending in most other areas besides those big purchases like a home is really good. The economy last year grew at a pace much faster than people anticipated, and because of that, pushed even more optimism into the stock market as we continue to hit all-time highs. Now, I don't think this year is going to come without any bumps or turbulent times at all. It's very natural for there to be pullbacks throughout the year, and take those opportunities to look for companies that are undervalued. Those 493 in particular, small caps have been absolutely beaten up since 2021, where they hit their all-time high, and they are still considered in a bear market. They're down still over 20% from those highs there. And that could be a really good opportunity to capture some gains, as we've seen the indexes really rise. So if you've missed out on that, some value could be found in the small caps. Again, this is just my opinion on how I'm seeing things. Do your own work, your own research. This is not investment advice, but that's where I see things right now. Other areas that I see as some fantastic opportunities from my perspective, the one that I'm honestly most excited about is China. Now, if you have seen anything or been paying attention to the market at all for the past year or two, you know it has been hated. It is absolutely hated. In fact, it's one of the most crowded trades right now to short China. And that's actually where I am looking for some fantastic value. And I see the market as potentially bottoming there. Now, I could be totally wrong here, but I am willing to live with that because I know the companies that I'm invested in there are high quality. They don't have any risk of bankruptcy or anything like that, and are great at generating free cash flow, which is what I really care about and pay attention to. One specifically that I love there is Alibaba. I'll give you guys an idea of what I'm actually looking at over there, because I really, really like China and think, based on the demographics of China right now, where they have a significant amount of their population heading into their main spending years in their 30s, early 40s. And I think that's going to drive another wave of spending and growth in China before the demographic cliff really hits and their population starts to decline rapidly, which will obviously push down profits as there's less people spending. I think it maybe won't be quite as bad as we anticipate because they still have a lot of modernization to do. Currently, I think the tailwinds in China are still so great, and we're going to see one last push. That's a little bit of where I'm seeing things. I really, really like small caps. I like China a lot as well, looking for opportunities and value there, as well as the 493 that I mentioned earlier. A lot of them have started running into the end of the year and the beginning of this year, but there is still so much value to be had out there, guys. If you're looking for companies that are down significantly off their all-time high, that either were producing a lot of free cash flow that are now rebounding, improving margins, or companies that still are. There's many companies that I'm seeing out there that are still producing great cash flow. Their multiples have just been suppressed, so now they're trading for far below what I would consider their intrinsic value. And I don't know how soon these trades are going to work out. If I had that crystal ball, I certainly would be out there living it up with all the money that I've made trading and investing, but I don't have that. I just know that I can have a good understanding of companies that I invest in and say I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. There are tailwinds in their industry. They're leading providers or good providers in their industry, and people continue to go to them. That's going to drive them to continue to increase profits, and eventually they're going to come back into favorability. And that's going to allow me to capture, hopefully, the meat of the swing from overly pessimistic to, ideally, I would love to ride it all the way to over optimistic and capture the meat of that. I'm never going to get the exact bottom or the exact top. I just want the meat of it. I hope sharing this was a little bit valuable for you guys today on how I'm actually seeing the market. And I also wanted to share a lot of what I get comes from other people. I think that's super common in the investment industry, that we are building on top of what other people are saying and adding in our own expertise as we learn. And I myself am new to this world, relatively speaking, comparing myself to someone like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who have decades upon decades of experience. I have far to go, before I get there. But wanted to share with you guys one individual along with Warren and Charlie, learning from and hearing his ideas is Tom Hayes. And I'm going to link his channel here in the description of this video. I hope you guys go check him out. He has been someone who provides a really rational view of the market and how he sees things going. You're going to see a ton of similarities between what I say and what he has to say, and that's because I'm learning a ton from him. Doing my own work and own research, I found his points to be spot on. So take a look there. He provides some tremendous value. I cannot recommend him highly enough. And he's doing this exact same thing that I'm looking to do, finding companies that are temporarily out of favor and riding them as people realize it's not as bad as they think. So go check him out, and hopefully today was valuable for you guys. I appreciate you sticking around, and we'll see you in the next one.